Okay, hello everyone. My name is Damien. I'm the module coordinator for BMG 705 Global Business and Context, and I am based in the McGee campus of Ulster University. So today is just a quick session, an overview session, and some generic advice and some guidance on how you complete the assessment that is due on the 23rd of August 2021. Okay, so we've set your task as the following. A small or medium-sized UK manufacturing company is considering expanding into mainland Europe in June 2022. So mainland Europe is anywhere outside of the island of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. Okay, so in today's short session here, I will be using Ireland as an example. Okay, Ireland we don't consider to be in mainland Europe, so please do not be using the examples that I provide or the countries that I provide. Okay, so select a company, and if you wanted to make the assignment a little bit easier, you could narrow down and focus on one particular country within mainland Europe and make the task a lot easier. Okay, so we want you to identify and to critically evaluate the four most immediate factors of the macro business environment that SME has to take into account when assessing the decision to internationalize or not. Okay, so a couple of things to pick up on here is the four most immediate factors. You may identify in the course of your research for the assignment that there could be 10 factors, could be 12 factors, could be 6. Part of the assignment is for you to decide which are the four most immediate factors that they face. And there's a number of issues you need to take into consideration here, and a number of issues that will determine what is the most immediate factor. First of all, you've got to think about what size is the SME. Okay, and the definition of an SME is quite broad, but because it's quite broad, the implications are also quite broad. So if it's a small, let's say less than 10 employees, you've got to think about the available resources and how that will impact upon that company's decision to internationalize. If it's a medium-sized company, it could be a company, say, of 100 employees, and therefore it will have much more, will have many more resources, and therefore a factor that would influence a small company may not be the same as that for a medium company. Okay, and you also got to think about, well, what stage of development is this company at? Okay, has it got lots of experience in international markets? Okay, is it already exporting to the US, to Australia, to South America, or has it never done this before? So all these issues, all this background research is going to help you determine what you believe to be the four most immediate factors. If you do happen to identify, let's say 6, 7, 8 other factors, then briefly mention them in your introduction and just say X company expanding into X in June 2022 will face 10 considerable factors. However, the four most immediate factors are what you decide. And make sure you note what the other factors as well. What you're doing there is that you're showing a broad awareness, a good understanding of what's happening in this macro business environment, and that you can put forward what you believe to be the four most immediate factors. Okay. What we're looking for is 3,000 words plus or minus 10%. Okay, so that's no more than 3,300, no less than 2,700. In order to demonstrate your knowledge and your understanding and your application, what we want to see is lots of use of examples, lots of academic models, and I'll explain these in a second as we go through in a little bit of detail. Okay, so whenever we're asked initially to do a macro business environment, one of the things that we learn fairly early on in any basic business course, whether it's undergrad or postgrad, is this thing called a pest analysis. Okay, and a pest analysis is used to analyze the macro environment as part of a SWOT analysis. So it identifies the opportunities and the threats. The strengths and weaknesses are your micro analysis. Okay, and this can present problems at a postgraduate level. Okay, because people automatically assume that a pestle, or a steeple analysis is enough in itself in order to conduct a macro business environmental analysis. Okay, and what they tend to end up doing then is to present the 4 factors as factor 1, political, factor 2, economic, factor 3, social, factor 4, technological. And that usually leads to the student failing the assignment. Okay, because pestle analysis is only to be used at this level as a way of gathering information. No, it's a framework. It's not an end in itself. Okay, so it's a starting point. It's a starting point for your analysis, but you must drill down and identify within your pestle, within whatever it is, pest, steeple, whatever you use, what are the specific factors that are applicable to your selected company in that particular market. Okay. The problem with pest, pestle, and steeple is that they're level 1 undergrad descriptive models. Okay, they make this distinction between something that's political, economic, social, technological, and it completely ignores the fact that most issues are multi-dimensional. Okay, so if we take the example of, let's say, Brexit. Okay, so what we would tend to see is people put factor 1, political, and then they talk about Brexit. However, Brexit isn't just a political issue. Brexit is also economic, it's social, it's cultural. So if you put political as your factor and then just talk about Brexit in a purely political sense, then what you end up doing is writing descriptively. You'll start describing how David Cameron came up with this referendum, that it was held in June, that the majority of devolved areas voted for it. Northern Ireland voted against it. It was a national, and you end up describing what is without having any real depth of analysis. Okay, so you end up just describing things rather than gathering as much information as possible, looking at it, looking at specifically what is the aspect of Brexit that would, let's say, affect a company in Northern Ireland. So if you were doing this in relation to Northern Ireland, which again is not mainland Europe, so you cannot use this example, but you would be talking specifically about the Northern Ireland Protocol. Okay, and that's a particular aspect of Brexit. So again, we're going from the broad political, narrowing it down to Brexit, and then going specifically for the factor that is the most immediate, and that would be the Northern Ireland Protocol, and how that would affect a company looking to enter the Northern Irish market. Okay, so if you do PESTLE, the chances of you passing this module are highly, highly unlikely. And the reason for that is because of the marking scheme. Okay, people that do PEST, they end up writing like this. Okay, so they end up, some basic, it is a real basic understanding that they're demonstrating. Okay, it is, where's my, hold on folks, just 1 wee second, I get myself organized. Okay, you'll see here, so, it's largely, you'll end up with largely irrelevant information. There'll be no real evidence of knowledge or understanding. You probably have gone and read like one thing, or very limited evidence of reading. It's merely description of the main issues and information, synthesis of information, some application, just really basic, limited kind of stuff. And that's what you tend to end up with as soon as you see like a PESTLE framework. However, if you see a more in-depth, so rather, as I say, somebody puts forward political and then talks about Brexit, it's going to be down around here. Somebody whose issue has identified the Northern Irish Protocol, well, they're probably going to be in and around this area here, because it showed that they've got, they understand the area, they've really read around the subject in order to get to that point, that they have a good insight that it is really contemporary stuff that they're talking about, and then they apply that knowledge to the context that they're looking at it. So this is why we try and avoid a PESTLE kind of framework. It's just there as a method of gathering information. You want to have all this information sat around you after a period of time, and then use it to pick out the 4 factors that you're looking. Okay, as I say, you could identify, for example, 10 factors. Mention in your introduction that there is 10 factors. The 4 most immediate are 1, 2, 3, 4. However, I could also discuss 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, whatever they happen to be, but it is beyond the scope of this assignment. So you're showing, yeah, I've got all this knowledge, and this is what I'm going to put forward as the 4 most immediate. Okay, and this is a suggested outline for the assignment. Okay, and we've put in some word counts here as a guideline, but they're only there as a guideline. We're not looking to constrain you. But if I was doing the assignment, or if Timina was doing the assignment, we would look for a structure, and we would use these subheadings. So your first subheading would be introduction. Okay, so 200 words roughly, a bit about an outline to the chosen company, and then outline and justify the selection of your chosen country. So if you're going to say, I'm using the whole of mainland Europe, say why. And again, that could be relevant depending on the company that you're looking at. Or let's say you're going to focus on France. Well, you have to justify why France. So you've in the course of your research, you may identify a trend, a gap, something that would benefit them if they moved to France. Okay, so that's about 200 words, and you will struggle to get a lot of that into 200 words. So make good use of your appendices. Okay, so it could be a brief outline of the chosen company, and then you could say, see Appendix 1 for more details. And Appendix 1 could be a complete company profile, and the same with your country. So talk about your country as an overview, and then say, see Appendix 2 for a country profile. And you would include as much information as possible in your country profile, but add it as an appendix, and you get around the word count. Okay, so that's your first 200 words. Next 200 words then is reason for expansion. So explain why the company is now or should be expanding, and then identify what stage they're at in the internationalization process. Okay, and I kind of talked about this a wee bit at the start. Okay, so are they experienced exporters? Have they exported to other markets? Is this the first time exporting? What stimulated their exporting? Did they spot the gap in the market? Is it an unsolicited order? So you can use this section to kind of show your knowledge. And there is a stages process of internationalization, That would be a good little model. I think it's the Uppsala model, and it shows 7 stages of internationalization. Why not take that model, put it into your assignment, and indicate on that where you believe the company is at. So if it has never exported before, you could indicate stage 1. If perhaps they've exported and they're exporting to 1 or 2 small markets, but it's not mainland Europe, or if it's the country that you've selected, maybe it's at stage 3. But clearly use a model and clearly indicate what stage it's at. Again, that's going to have impact upon the factors and the analysis that you make. Okay, so at this stage you have about 400 boards written. And then the next stage you want to talk about individually then your first factor. Okay, so let's say it's me and I'm looking at Northern Ireland. Factor 1 would then be the Northern Ireland Protocol. So I would label that as a Northern Ireland Protocol, and underneath it I would go into I'd spend no more than a sentence saying that it's political, part of Brexit, and then I would be talking about, the analysis of it and what it means to my company and what challenges it could present, what opportunities it could present, and what it will mean for the company that I have chosen moving forward. And the same then with factor 2, factor 3, and factor 4. So some examples of things we have seen in the past are things if you're looking at the island of Ireland. So factor 2, a bad example is when people would maybe write the environment, and then again just describe the environment and how important it is. We don't need that. We don't need you to tell us that the environment is important, the physical environment's important. This is all stuff we know. So your 2,000 words is information that we don't know. Okay, so rather than factor 2 just saying the environment, okay, it could be factor 2, could be landfall taxes. Okay, but you would only identify landfall taxes after having a look at all the environmental issues that's happening on the island of Ireland at the minute. Okay, it could be something around carbon emission targets. Okay, so rather than just saying environmental, I would be talking about landfall taxes. So again, landfall taxes is political, it's environmental, it's economic, it's legal. So those are all aspects that provides a multi-dimensional approach to the issue, rather than just thinking with a straitjacket or silo thinking, unidimensional thinking. Okay, we want good broad analysis, good in-depth identification of factors, good in-depth application to the company. So for me, if I was looking at Ireland, it could be 1, the protocol, 2, landfall taxes, 3 could be CETA, CETA, which is a Canadian Europe trade agreement. Okay, and that's a specific trade agreement between Ireland as part of the European Union and Canada. So what implications may that have on my particular company? Okay, and I would be talking, I would explore that, discuss it, if that was one of the things I come up with as being relevant. So again, what I could have done there, I could have said economic and just describe economics and trade deals and just being real descriptive. Or I can use my 500 words properly. My heading is CETA. CETA is economic trade agreements between Canada and Europe, of which Ireland is a part of, and then how it would affect, impact, opportunities, challenge, and implications moving forward for my company. Okay, so hopefully you're getting an idea here of the kind of factors that we're looking for, the depth of analysis, and this is the reason why. Okay, so we're looking for critical, insightful evaluation. We're looking for synthesis between your sections. We're looking for coherent, exact piece of writing. We're not looking for description of things that we already know. We're not looking for real basic introductory kind of stuff. We're looking for good depth of analysis. Once you've done all that, you can then start thinking about, okay, if they were to move forward, if this company was to move forward into the chosen country, then you got to start thinking about, well, what is the most efficient, what is the most effective mode of entry? So this could be a single method. You could say that they should use, and by this stage, all the information that you're building up is going to help you determine. So let's say they've limited resources, they don't have a lot of staff, they don't have a lot of information on the overseas market. Perhaps your mode of entry then comes down to something like the use of an agent or a dealer or a distributor. Maybe it's a brick and click situation. So they may have their own, you may recommend a website plus a salesman in country, may say a website and an agent in country. Maybe there's legal issues that forbids you using those methods. Maybe the particular industry, maybe the particular country means you have to enter a strategic alliance, a joint venture. And again, all this will be determined and underpinned in the previous 2,500 words. Now, if you do believe that they could use a dual strategy or they could use 2 or 3, again, talk about them in terms of which is the most relevant or which is the most achievable. Okay. And then finally, 250 words on your conclusion and recommendations. And that'll bring it all together. It brings your assignment all together for you. Okay, and as I say, make sure you use examples. So if I already talked here about, let's say, the internationalization process. So I'd be using the Uppsala model here. If one of my factors was something around culture, then I'd be using the Hofstede model. Okay, so if you go to Hofstede, just Google Hofstede, you'll actually find country analysis on that website. So you could do an analysis between the UK and your chosen country. Okay, include that as an appendix, but talk about it then within your 500 words. Don't just reiterate what's in that on that website, but talk about what it means for your particular country. So if it was a particular aspect of culture, it was my heading, I'd be saying, see Appendix 3 for further details. Appendix 3 would then be a copy of the analysis that I can download from Hofstede.com. But I would be talking about the 500 words here as something distinct. It would be my analysis of what I've downloaded and not just simply repeating or describing what I've downloaded. Okay, when it comes to things like examples, it's always good to back up your argument with examples. And this could be, for example, if you're recommending a bricks and clicks strategy, bricks and clicks mode of entry, give us an example of another company that has done that successfully, or give us an example of a company that has done it, made mistakes, and these are the mistakes to be avoided. Okay. So lots of examples, lots of academic models, no less than 2,700, no more than 3,300 words. Okay, and if you would like to ask any questions, please ask away, and I will stop the recording now.